agenda. I reserve the right to change the order of items or combine them for consideration as needed. Can I get somebody to approve?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second it.
Thank you. There is a motion and a second. All say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 1.02 is for public input. This is time for comments and for general public. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes, and we ask that you do not raise specific personnel issues for privacy reasons. No action can be taken on items raised here until they are specifically placed on the future agenda. Seeing no public comments, we'll move on to item 2.01, approval of the committee minutes. Are there any corrections or edits to the minutes from our March 25th, 2026 meeting? Could I get a motion? People?
Make a motion to approve the last month's minutes.
Give a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Item 2.02 is the receipt, review, and discussion regarding results of the school attendance survey from the front desk office staff. So I will present the survey results for the committee for discussion, and this is a non-action item. So this was kind of part of our reason today for sitting in this kind of group, is that we're going to do our last sort of data dive, which was this piece. Not that we can't do more in the future, but we've done quite a bit. We've got a lot of numbers swimming in our head and a lot of information. And now we're going to start to take all of that and move it toward our root cause analysis that will hopefully direct us in our next steps. So, on your computer, on the agenda, you have a copy of the survey results. I have a hard copy if you prefer. Would you? Okay. Oh, no, you're good. Anybody else hard copy? Would you like a hard copy? I have to apologize. I printed it on legal, and then you got my quick left-handed scissor cut job at the bottom here.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, it gets worse. Just putting it out there. And so I'm just going to give everybody a minute to look through this. We have all of these fun things. I feel like if there's a highlighter in front of me, I will find a reason to use it. So if anybody wants to dig in, not only to the candy, but into any of the supplies here, go ahead and highlight anything that you find interesting, significant, and then we can discuss it.
So one of the questions I had was, and I'm pretty sure we discussed this in one of the previous meetings. The younger students versus older students missing. So the older students have various class periods and stuff like that, versus the younger students who technically only have one. Is that when they miss classified as one versus, like, say, the older kids, is it classified as 5, 6, 7?
So I know
It really is.
it is. So when I pulled the data for you last time, I only pulled, I think, was it 3rd or 5th period, one of those, so that you would only see apples to apples, because
I do remember that.
yeah. So it is counted differently for the adult, for the secondary kids. But as far as chronic absenteeism, we're still sticking with that.
Grade 6, I think it is. Like then I have to.
Yeah, they have to
So-
have a certain amount of periods within to make a full day, but
Yeah.
Okay.
If you looked at your child's like progress report or report card at the high school level, it'll have class periods missed and then days missed. And so class
Okay.
periods, like the full 7
it's gonna
periods,
look like a lot.
it may look like they have missed 40 class periods or 21 class periods, because I'm trying to get it to easy math, guys, which would be equivalent to 3 days. So we can still pull up the percentage of chronic absenteeism. So like when we go to sign off on driver's license forms and all that kind of stuff, we look at the total percentage missed of days, not class periods.
Okay,
But we still have to track attendance by class period.
okay, thank you.
Is that, so in theory, a student could, if they're just chronically in one class, not pass that class, but,
Not
right, like have,
chronically.
okay.
And we
then
look
we
at
would
that.
know.
Okay.
Like if a kiddo's missed, like, wow,
Always
Katie is
math or whatever.
always missing 5th period. That happens to be right after lunch.
That becomes
Katie,
a
what are you
truancy.
doing? That
Yeah.
becomes
Okay.
something else. So yeah, we can
Okay.
definitely look at that piece and like delineate between that. And admin's really good at the high school level about recognizing those things versus like other things.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure because like, you know, like when those numbers reported to the state, are they, you know, are they being skewed because, you know, like say, exactly what you're describing? So-
no, because even our state reporting takes into account all of that, and IC, which is our data process that we use to report to the state, reports it all accurately, both for our state reportables and our federal reportables.
So we're just looking through this was our summary. This was the AI generated summary of our survey of the results from the attendance secretaries. Actually, all secretaries received this. But
And we had, what, 27 responses?
yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was really good.
Was that across all schools? Are there any that responded more than once from one school?
It was anonymous, so we couldn't track that.
Yeah.
But I don't believe so, I mean,
I would hope not. It would be kind of silly, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was a good response, and so anyway, we're just kind of looking through. You can, if you want to dig into highlighters or anything, so that you can discuss anything specific that you.
I guess one question I have, 'cause it's kind of, I was kind of interested to see that the most common is child is sick, which kind of makes sense to me. I guess a follow-up question I would wonder is, of the absentees, how often are we getting parents that actually call? Does that make sense? Like, overall, if 100 kids are absent in a day, are 75 parents actually calling, right? Or is it more like 90 saying their kid is sick? I just, like that, I'm kind of like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah. That's a good wondering.
Yeah, because it's not a bad thing. I'm actually like, oh, wow, okay, at least parents are calling. Like, my side of the world didn't always expect that we had that much parent follow through. But, so that led me to think, right? Like, well, how much parent follow through do we really have? So,
well, and some of that can be seen, it's hard because we don't have the exact day-to-day correlation unless we pull it, but when we look at the attendance codes that we looked at last time, the unexcused,
Yeah.
if parents don't call, it goes in
Yes.
as unexcused.
yeah,
And we still had, I think it was over 1,000.
there was a lot.
Unexcused, which
Yeah.
does tell us that is part of a root cause
Yeah.
of lack of understanding. And I just did an additional survey for some work with freshman transitions we're doing at the high school and how do we better support our freshmen coming in. And I sent it out to all of our freshman parents current. And one of the things that was a common theme through that is understanding absences and
Okay.
when is it acceptable to be absent
Yeah.
and what counts. So I think that is, I think from our root cause analysis, definitely something that's coming out is we need to
Educate parents more.
better educate parents on when to call, why do we need that phone call, why is
When to
it
keep them
important for
home
their
versus when
kid?
to go ahead and send them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just interesting.
And I like to see like, maybe even like the difference between COVID, pre-COVID and after COVID, because I imagine pre-COVID is like, oh, you got a cough, just go. But now it's like, you have a cough, you know.
Yeah, that's true too.
This may be something that I bemoan oftentimes, the amount of stuff that the schools have to do now, that when I was a kid, it was like, yeah, that was a home thing, you just did it. With that said, it might also be interesting to see a teledoc or a telemedicine approach. Because again, for me, it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna, by the time I take my kid to a doctor,
Oh,
when
yeah.
the doctor's appointment, he's over it.
Yeah.
But if a teledoc I can
Yeah.
get to and say, hey, this is the symptoms, what is it? Great, he's sick, can you send me a note? Boom, note goes to the school. Again, I don't know how many parents are gonna go through that extra step.
Well, or even one step further, could we use school nurses?
Yeah, that's my.
Where you actually called in the morning and said, this is my kid's symptoms, and then if the nurse said, you know what, keep your kid home, it was excused for the day.
So the school nurse can send a kid home. But
Yep.
I think that would be putting a lot on our school nurses. They can send a kid home during the day
Yeah.
and it will go in as the exempt if the nurse chooses to send them home.
Yeah.
But I think we still need the kid to come to school
To school.
because I think our nurse, because we have one nurse for
Oh.
1,400 kids.
I didn't realize there was only one.
Yeah, there's only one,
that
and
would
some
be
of
a
our
lot.
elementaries may not even have, and I'm looking to Emily because I don't want to miss.
I think everybody has a nurse at this point,
Okay.
but we have a lot going
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Also, yeah, it wouldn't be appropriate for them to be able to excuse,
Like a tele.
like to act in that role,
Mhm.
to excuse kids without seeing them, and only when they see them. I mean, they send them home and count it when it's a fever, throwing up, physical signs.
And they've tried to like go to class multiple
Right,
times
right.
and still can't, like.
They're falling asleep, or, yeah, there is not,
There
yeah.
has to be a strict, but I wonder, I think we could take that idea
Yeah.
and as part of our solution, as we're thinking about how do we communicate to parents, making sure that in that communication, we will accept a telehealth note as well.
Yeah.
And, like, if your kid's sick, here's some options that we as the school district can accept. Because like really choosing to go to that telehealth, depending on people's insurance or what's available to them, it's kind of out of our
Yeah.
locus of control, but we can make sure we know parents can. Because to be honest, as a parent, I always take my kid in physically. I never thought about telehealth.
Oh, I use teledoc all the time.
Yeah.
I
so-
rarely make them leave, because then they don't have to leave their house. So I love teledoc. I would use it all the time with the girls, like.
So I think it's something we add for sure to our like piece of
Obviously.
education.
And from a budgetary standpoint, now is not the time for this to happen. But if this is that serious, it may also just be worth the district looking at investing in an additional central nurse, if a central nurse is able to say that, and we have somebody here that people call into. Now, obviously, when you have 10,000 students calling into one nurse, that's going to be an issue, but nonetheless, if that's going to reduce our
Right.
absenteeism by 50%, because all it is that somebody's got a sick kid at home and they don't want to, they either one can't or two don't want to take them to a doctor, and we can get that taken care of and resolved. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know what the capacity is, and with the budgetary situation, this
Yep,
is
it's
not
an
the
option for
time.
now.
But
Well,
mean,
and
that-
I wonder would be what's the legal constraints of just like I can only teach what's within my license.
mhm.
What's the legal constraints within a school nurse's license versus, because they're not doctors, they're not LPNs and is it, I guess it's that wonder of like, is it the school district's responsibility to provide healthcare to the children too? I guess would be my wonder.
Sorry to interrupt, we're having issues with the ceiling mics picking up this conversation. Because although we're sitting close together, they are like in the ceiling underneath those tiles.
Do we need to
So.
move the tiles?
Or project.
Yes, project, and then we'll see how that works, and we may have to move back to our table.
Do we have that mic? Where did that go?
It was only picking up whichever person it's facing, so.
So we can use it as a talking stick.
I love talking.
Such a teacher thing. Hello, everybody.
It is a teacher thing.
How are you? Arhelia, do you have anything you want to add?
I don't. I'm listening to everything you guys are saying. Thank you. I'm listening to everything you guys are saying. Like everything's just running in my mind. Because I just took my little one to the doctor yesterday. And I was talking to the front desk lady, and we were just having a conversation, and she was like, do you need a doctor's note? And I was like, yes, I do. I was like, I actually do. And she's going back to school right now. And she's like, yeah, the schools have made it so much stricter. I was like, yes, well, it's always been like that. I was like, just that it's never been like brought out like as it's being brought out now. But she's like, yeah, I don't want to take my kid. She's like, if I notice that my kid is sick, I'm not going to take him to the doctor. Like, it's because it's probably just a one-day thing. I'm like, well, okay, well, you do have a point, because that's how I am as well as a mom. If I see that you have a cough, like my kids rarely miss school. Like it's rare when they do. But I'm not like, okay, let's go. Like you have a cough, let's go, unless it's something big. But I'm just thinking of what you guys are all saying. I think that school nurse would help, but the child would have to be there. And I was thinking, because my daughter was sick, I want to say at the beginning of the school year, and the nurse sent her home because she was throwing up. That never got excused by the nurse. So it's like, if you guys are saying that that gets excused, that was never excused. Like I had to actually physically take her into the doctor, and I always got the school notes, but that was actually taken. The nurse never, and that was at Adobe. So I was like, okay, like you guys are saying one thing, but that never happened.
Was it not excused through the doctor's side, but just an excused? Like it was a you still? Okay. That is not district policy. So I think that was probably an oversight. And a new nurse also, and that happens. But that's another reason why just education, so that parents can know the rules and follow up when, there's always going to be user error for all of us. So just good to know that those things need to be communicated to all of our new staff as they join, because it's complicated. Yeah, isn't it interesting that you just had that conversation yesterday with everybody too? Anybody else want the mic?
So returning to the report, page 3, page 3, the strategic recommendations. These are the recommendations coming from the staff. So the staff want us to create a policy. The staff want us to strengthen the follow through, et cetera. Great.
Yeah. So Matt, were you here like when I said this is AI generated from the survey? So, but yes, these were all the takeaways. People want rules and accountability, and that's at all levels. Kids want it in the classroom. Teachers want it, it just makes everybody's life easier. And we do have a district policy on attendance. And maybe there also needs to be some clarification in what the school can actually do. And sometimes that frustration is really that sometimes the staff feels like the school should be able to do more than they really can by policy and by law. And I think that also goes in with you guys with kind of enforcement too, and what we legally can enforce, because there were times when there were some real teeth to chronic absenteeism from a legal perspective. And for so many reasons, that has changed over the years. And I don't know if either of you want to speak to that and what law enforcement currently is doing or has changed and why that may have changed.
The laws themselves haven't changed, but the laws regarding truancy are pretty specific as far as what sanctions can be given to a child. And they're really pretty minimal. And I don't have any authority to override that. And so I know for a period of time, they were doing like a truancy court type program, but that was pretty labor intensive. I know it was a collaborative effort with communities and schools. And then, so when that court master, he actually is deceased, he passed away. And so then they brought in the new court master, and it was kind of just a kind of a philosophy thing. Whereas she felt, first of all, that we didn't have the truancy board in place. We didn't have some things in place that the statute did require for that. But when we also looked at it, there were ways that the law allowed the school district and the SROs to actually run a truancy court. And so kind of her perspective was the level in which we are dealing with delinquent behavior and the behavior issues that we felt the system needed to focus on, that truancy wasn't necessarily where the effort was most valuable, if that makes sense. And there were other ways to address the issue with the same results than utilizing a formal juvenile justice system type process. So that's kind of where it kind of started to, I tried to start the truancy board for a bit in order to meet the requirement to figure it out, but then getting attendance was an issue for me and people just kind of fell off. And then it kind of came back up after you got involved.
I would also say that I think from reading it a couple months ago, that truancy board, it's not really designated as, it's not delegated to a single group. It's kind of vague. So I think that might be something that would need to be talked to with our representatives about maybe defining who actually is supposed to look into that. So I think there's too many hands in the pot, and when it comes to that truancy board, so it's kind of almost a bigger issue that needs to be, I think, needs to be addressed at the state level. Yes, for the state, because like you said, they're gonna have to change the law, because I think the way the law is wrote, it you know, like Heather's saying, it's like very open for interpretation.
I think it's one of those issues where the majority of my kids that are in my system have truancy issues, but not the majority of kids with truancy issues end up in my system. And so that's the battle that I have tried to fight, because prior administration throughout the school district would say to me, if they're truant, they're out committing crime, so therefore they should be in detention. And I'm like, we don't arrest people based on what we think they might do. So when they commit the crime, call law enforcement, they'll arrest them and bring them to me for the crime. But we're not going to arrest kids and incarcerate them for truancy based on what we think they could be out doing when they're not in school. So it's kind of this circular type thing.
I also think that goes back to, you know, truancy and bringing in law enforcement is kind of that last umbrella piece of, like, if we're thinking of the continuum of, I hate to say consequences or whatnot, we really want to think about how district-wide, because I do think this needs to be a district-wide, clear, strategic policy that, you know, we have the letters and stuff in place, which we know are not super effective. We're hearing that from our front office staff. As a parent, I can say I've gotten 2 this year, and I just kind of went, yep, and threw them away. I'm so sorry. But I know my son's not going to hit chronic absenteeism. It was the warning. But at the same time, like, we want to think of what's the continuum with law enforcement coming in at that last resort where we pull driver's license at the high school level or things like that. But, you know, thinking about what we've tried at Elko High of making sure we have attendance contracts and things like that in place. I would love to see a district-wide common attendance contract that is being used at every school and a consistent across the board, so that when parents are when we're getting to that 7th, 8th absence, we're sitting down with parents and saying, hey, let's build this relationship. What's going on? Here's why we need you in school, making sure that education piece has already been in place, but then followed up on. And we create the policy of steps and then almost like a checklist, which I kind of started doing for all the powers that be that go into that child's like record. So we can say, hey, we've done our due diligence. We're working to build a relationship with that family too, because that's a key piece to this too, that we don't just go straight to truancy court and all that kind of stuff, that we're identifying the barriers that are keeping that kiddo from school and making sure the education's in place. So I would love to see us look at what's a consistent procedure and plan that we can put in place. I do believe from looking at the survey results too, and I so value the people who took the time to give this. Their voice was really valuable in this. And I think that would be, I guess, what I would say is our next step of how do we look at the policy and make sure it's a continuum.
And that might lead us into our next step as we're looking at root causes, because we want to first identify the root cause, and then we have steps that we want to look at, and then we'll want to go through this process of determining what kinds of actions we can take for that. So I kind of feel like, this has been really helpful to just being able, because we're so naturally wanting, I feel like our group so naturally is solution driven. and I love that. But we also don't want to put the cart before the horse. Like we want to we're right now recognizing that our attendance secretaries and sort of that first line of communication with families is frustrated. And that was very evident from this survey, that there is some frustration. And I also think that the perception of policy and procedure feels scattered. So there's probably some room for growth there. And whether that is reviewing and changing the policy or following up with more consistent procedures. So those will all be things that I think that we can talk about, because this is what our front line is saying they're seeing. And I found it to be very informative as far as some of the specifics myself. I didn't realize that medical and dental appointments would then lead to like half-day absences. Like that too kind of felt like I just never occurred to me that if a parent took their student to the doctor for those kinds of things, that they'd just be gone for the rest of the day and not bringing them back. So that kind of thing, I maybe was naive toward and was informative. There were other things too that I felt like from our discussions and just knowing how schools have been and having discussions myself, a lot of it was consistent with what I think we've found. Is there anything else with the survey that we want to discuss, or do we want to move on to our root cause analysis?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to look over my notes as I was taking some more. I guess, no, I like you said, kind of like what you guys are saying, it seemed, the survey was very informative, and I'm immediately going to the solutions for a lot of these, on what we can do, why are we doing this way, to kind of figure some things out. So I lost my train of thought, so if I remember, I'll let you know. You're good.
Dentist appointment? Half an hour that I forgot to tell her to go to. I scheduled it just for her so she doesn't miss school, okay?
Not a problem.
I was looking through some of the previous data that we had, and I'm sure it's here somewhere, to the point on, at 7 or 8 days, maybe we make a contract. How many of our unexcused, I guess, what number of students account for the number of unexcused? Those are individual students, or those are individual instances? So, for example, grade 1, there were 961 unexcused absences.
Right.
If that's 100 students, then clearly that's an issue. But if that's 450 students, well then, yeah, it's still not good that we have an unexcused absent, but we're not at that chronic absenteeism then, correct? So I guess, again, kind of looking at solution-oriented thinking of how many students are we truly looking at? Can we see how many have 5 or more absences? And maybe we look at that as well, because from a percentage standpoint, I mean, if we're looking at just a small number of kids, then maybe we don't need to do a whole bunch of solutions. But at the same time, I don't know.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying, because this is different kind of data than what you're talking about, and it is the repeat sort of offenders of unexcused absence that is like really weighs heavily on our chronic absenteeism. However, I do think that through this data and seeing how it grows from first grade to high school, and then also getting the information from the secretaries, and it corroborates a lot of what our data is showing. I feel like we're at a point that we could probably say this is an issue. And I do feel like we've talked about this before, that we might have a couple of different buckets of issues. And we've talked about truancy and truancy court, and that might be a different issue than unexcused absence and parent communication and those kinds of things. But I don't know. I guess I feel like at this point that we've looked at a lot of data that is kind of like very much should rise to action, I guess. That's my feeling, and I guess I'd like to hear what the rest of you feel, because that will definitely move our course moving forward.
Emily, I agree in the sense that we know right now that we're sitting as a district with 36% of chronic absenteeism. That means 6% of currently enrolled students are hitting over 10% of the school year as absent. Now that includes excused or unexcused. So we know it's an issue. I think the root causes, I think we've identified education, parents understanding the system as definitely one of our root causes. Is I hear a lot of, oh, I thought I could just call and excuse it, and not understanding that it's not just unexcused, but it's that excused absence. I definitely think that education piece is a root cause. And then when we think about daily attendance as well, when you increase daily attendance, we start to decrease chronic absenteeism too. So while we look at both numbers, that looks at daily attendance rates, but it does figure into our chronic absenteeism rate. And then one thing I think about too is, since I'm tracking the data so much at Elko High School, we have at semester, we were at 10% already, or 11. Sorry, I don't have the exact number. It might have been 12% of our kids were already at chronic absenteeism just from first semester. So 12% of 1,368 kids is 100. And like some kids that we have identified and started working on attendance contracts with. It is an overwhelming amount. And so if we don't start hitting the problem from these root causes, we're trying to get those solutions in place, but without the system in place district-wide, because what we hear is, why are we hearing this at the high school? Our kids always miss this much school too. And so we have to go back to that continual, it starts in kinder, and we need a clear system all the way through. We hold it accountably different at the high school level because we have things like we can pull driver's license, we can withhold credit because we graduate kids. So I do think our root cause is telling us that we do have like a clear issue that we can address from several layers, though, and I think we've identified several kind of key areas. Oh, sorry, Matt.
Okay. All right. So just so that we are staying on our agenda here, are there any further discussions on our survey?
The secretaries.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say something, spending 1 to 3 hours daily. I imagine this is on average. Processing the attendance stuff that's a lot. So, there's obviously got to be a way that we could streamline this, which would, free them up to do other things. Because, like you said, working in the schools this first semester, I knew that the school staff and stuff like that were busy in the past, but now working in the schools and seeing everyone, I am completely blown away by the amount of work like every person puts in with the school district, from the front office staff to admin to the teachers prepping their lessons and educating the students. So, if there was a way that we could reduce that 1 to 3 hours daily on average, I think that would be very beneficial for everyone involved.
And I would add to that, that's 1 to 3 hours on our secretaries. I meet with kids almost an hour or more a day for kids who have been absent to try to get them caught up. And so our teachers are also feeling the pressure of trying, because we want our kids to do well. We know sometimes it's out of their control or choice, and it's a lot of time on our teachers.
All right. If there's no further comment, we will move on to item 2.03 is review and discussion regarding root cause analysis on chronic absenteeism. The committee will now work through an analysis of the district's chronic absenteeism based on the data from our prior meetings as well, including what we've discussed today. And again, this is a non-action item. So I am going to have each of you just take a hard copy too, but you can look on the agenda. Do we have a copy of the root cause analysis on the agenda? I think it might have been posted in a previous one because we were discussing it. It hasn't changed from that, but we can get that posted as well to the agenda so everybody can see the protocol that we're using to work through this. And this is just kind of a general, this is a very education thing to do when we are dealing with problems and looking at data, and also leading us through to solutions. So we're going to go through a process that I've done quite a bit with my schools, working with our school improvement plans and things like this. So just kind of know that, this is an educator thing. And we're going to start with our part 1, and that's creating a problem statement. So we just want to get the language here so that we know what is the problem statement that we want to address. And, we have an example: chronic absenteeism has risen by blank % across all Elko County School District schools compared to the previous fiscal years. We're just setting What is our problem? So let's dig in.
Do we want to do this individually, or are we going to just kind of start throwing things out? If we're going to throw things out, because I'm a collaborative guy, I prefer that, but I'll do whatever the board would or the committee would like. If we're going to throw things out, I'm happy to try to be a scribe and kind of type things out, because I find that it's easier than to cut, paste, copy, etc. If that's helpful.
Thank you for that, because I should clarify how I expected to go through this process. So part one, I do want to do collaboratively. So I really appreciate you being a scribe for us so that we can spitball what we want our problem to be. And then, and if we have multiple problems, then we can maybe tackle one at a time and decide which is our first problem that we really want to work through, knowing that this might, I know that we've talked about like extending time, and we will extend a little bit of time because we're almost at, 2:45 right now. But this root cause analysis will probably be taking us into our next meeting, just so you know. And then once we have our problem, then we're going to work through part two individually first with sticky notes, having you each write down answers. And I'll walk you through that process too. So you don't need to memorize it or anything right now. And so we'll do that first on sticky notes, and then we'll bring it together and we'll find commonalities between all of our ideas. And then we have our parking lot piece of paper board over there. That's education speak for where we organize everything. And so I'm hoping to get to some of the sticky notes today before we leave and working through that. But let's get through the problem statement first and see where we are. Does that sound good? Okay, so I just want to say problem statement, focus on chronic absenteeism. I feel like those words need to be in our problem statement. Who's next? What else needs to be in our problem statement?
I don't know what the changes over the years, but it was powerful to me when you said, right, that district-wide, we had a 36% chronic absenteeism, or 33? Yeah. Anyway, to me, it's something, incorporating something like that, because it highlights, it really is an issue district-wide.
I like that.
I was going to say, I would like to see how high our percentage is compared to maybe the rest of the state. So we can kind of make it a big picture thing too. It's not just a Elko County thing, but Elko County school district is, X percentage above the rest of the state. That's why not only is it serious, or hey, what's the set standard nationally for their students?
I think the district-wide has to be in there, but also like maybe some clarification that when we say district-wide, we also mean K through 12. So it encompasses all schools and all grade levels at that chronic absenteeism rate.
Is the problem statement an area in which we should also indicate that statistics show X amount of chronic absenteeism leads to Y percentage of academic drop? I just didn't know if it should be district-wide K through 12. We have a 33% chronic absenteeism, which then results in a loss of 14% on the basis points of the grades or something. I didn't know if that was too expensive.
I think we get to do whatever we want with our problems. So So I think we can call a spade here at this table, and I don't think it's a problem to try to put as much information so that we can really stay focused on why we are doing this. I don't think we have to put everything in it either. So whatever we really feel strongly about, I think we should go with. And I'm just now pulling up our data here that includes the district and the state. And we are looking at the 24-25 data. Remember, we're not looking at 25-26 yet. And for all schools, 32.6 chronic absenteeism for Elko County School District. So you were very close. You go. We're proud. All right. And then let's see. Let me just pull up the state data here. The state absenteeism is 26.6. So there we are.
So I could say we could simplify it by just that we are what, then 6% higher than the statewide average in our chronic absenteeism, something along those lines.
And say 6 percentage points, because 6%.
Perfect. All right. Matt, do you mind sharing with us what you have so far so we can start wordsmithing?
Notes of district-wide, K-12, 32.6%, ECSD, state, 26.6, 6 data points. Rough attempt at the beginning. I'm going to spitball this because I don't have it typed out. In all grades, K-12, Elko County School District is 6 percentage points above the state. Chronic absenteeism resulting in, or equivalent to 1 in 3 students missing more than 10 days of school.
So for our
Oh,
15, so technically it's 10% of the school year. So with 143 student contact days, it's 14.3 days that a kid can miss. We're not going, like, I think we've rounded that up as a district. Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, to 15 days. Or are we keeping it at 14? Because we just went to 143 contact days this year. So it would be 14 days before you would be 100%, but the state starts counting it at the 7 or 8 day mark.
I think what we want to do is probably stick to the 6% or 6 percentage points. And that's our problem, right? We've got a problem because as a state, you know, we have a lot of the same issues as other students in Nevada. So you know, comparing this to Idaho or Oregon or Washington or California, you know, apples to oranges, but this is our state and I feel like it's a problem because why is Elko County School District 6 percentage points higher? And it's not just Clark County and Washoe, that takes into account Humboldt and Nye and Story. And, you know, I mean, these are students with similar issues that all of our families should have. So I'm happy to keep it simple to that 6% if you guys are, that 6 percentage points. Just to reiterate for the record, the
problem statement that I have right now is in all grades, K-12, the Elko County School District is 6 percentage points above the state average in chronic absenteeism for students missing 14 or more days of attendance.
That was actually something I was gonna see if we could add, would be the definition of chronic absenteeism in our thing, so, you know, outside this group, people understand, so. I guess if you have that, website open for the state, was it the school report card or, I'm curious to see, does it have the data for, students who are at, like the reading and math levels they should be? I forgot what they call it, like what Elko County is versus the state average, just to see if there's a correlation between, hey, we also have a high chronic absenteeism, and we also have a above average reading deficiency, math deficiency, if that makes sense. I know it comes down to us hard.
All right, so right now for Elko County School District, we have, do you want to be getting this down here? So ELA proficiency is for elementary, 36.6, middle school, 29.3, high school, 40.8. Okay, that's ELA. Math proficiency, elementary, 34.1, middle school, 20%, high school, 15.6, which is weird to me. I know. That,
So
now.
5 and 6 can't do math at their.
Yeah. I mean, according to this, with the proficiencies. So,
That's
okay,
based
but
on ACT testing at the junior year. That's what the state uses for that.
for
test.
that one, for that particular,
And so is that the composite that they're hitting or is it the percentage?
it's a percentage.
Okay.
Okay, so then here are the state numbers so that you can, I know, but we're not using it for that purpose right now because we have to stay toward our problem. So this is all to, I think we're looking at, are there any links to our chronic absenteeism between the state and our district? So, okay, so then the state's the state's ELA proficiency, if you want to get this down so we can compare at the elementary level, it's 46.4%, middle school, 44.4%, high school, 47.2%. Math proficiency, elementary, 41.1, middle school, 29.4, high school, 21.1. That's at the state level, all of us combined.
I think we can honestly say that there is a potential correlation because we cannot prove causation. I remember that from teaching AP Psych, that our chronic absenteeism is correlating with our lower academic numbers across ELA and math comparative to the state.
It's certainly something I don't even know if we can even say it's a correlation yet. I just think that it could be part of our overall problem. And because we're looking at absenteeism to help in multiple areas and not just getting kids to school, we want to bring them to school for academic success, then that's our problem.
Yeah, so my, the only reason I wanted to see that data is, I mean, study after study is out there about kids who show up to school are more successful, which is, you know, in multiple avenues, from, you know, social with their peers, adults, to reading and math, apparently. So, you know, like I said, it's just, I just wanted to see those stats because, like I said, we can eliminate that chronic absenteeism just as a result of that, we should see at least a little bit of increase in those because the students are just in their seats learning. Especially now that we're at a 4-day school week, it's extra critical that they show up. Thank you for looking that up.
I guess one question, I think it would take a deeper dive to link them, because like some of the things I thought of was, if we looked at on the testing days, how many kids are absent? On the makeup testing days, how many kids are absent? Because then, and does that somehow get scored into the overall score? Without knowing that, I don't know that we could link them.
I wonder if the only real, if we wanted to explore sources, which I don't necessarily recommend that we do, I think we need to look more. We know it's we know there's correlation, but I think if we really want to see it, we could look at individual score. Who is chronically absent and what are their scores? Is it a linking that way? Versus like kids who are not chronically absent, are we seeing higher on average test scores? I think would be the only way to probably somewhat correlate that. But even then, it's not a direct correlation. Like there's so much that goes into those. But I would argue for purposes here, as far as our problem goes, we know that this problem is having a multitude of effects in many areas. And so if we stick, and there's not necessarily a definition here of where is that the effect, but I do think that comes into our solution analysis too later on of like, what's the possibilities of solving this or what we hope to see.
Yeah, I think as far as our problem statement goes, I think identifying the statement that you guys are kind of building already, but that yes, we have a higher percentage points of chronic absenteeism versus state, but this is the reason we're passionate about this is if we can lower those numbers, the kids who attend school are more successful in all avenues of life, which is our goal as these kids as mentors and adults to guide these children to be more successful. So that's why this is a problem that we need to address.
Arhelia, anything that you want to add to that? Okay. Yeah.
I'm hearing everything that you guys are saying. I did write down all of this for percentages and stuff.
I'm just trying to find, as a parent, I'm trying to find, I guess, a solution. I was like thinking about one thing and then it was like, oh no. Cause like I was gonna bring up like, and I think that would be a bigger problem if that was like, if that was a policy. For my little one, I know that if I did not bring a note to school, she was not allowed to be back on school, like at school. So I was like, okay, maybe that would work, but no, that wouldn't work because that would just make it 10 times harder for everybody, I think. So I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think as a parent. My kids, they don't miss school, so I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I'm just trying to think. So nothing on my end right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you bite off a little bit of this, I feel like you see that it's big. It's a huge multifaceted issue. So I think it's good for us to focus and try to simplify our problem so that we can focus because and then if we have other problems that arise, we can make that kind of a aside and then maybe go through another root cause analysis for additional problems. It's not to say, and that can carry us through, additional meetings. Like we don't have to just handle one problem as far as this committee is concerned, but we probably should try to handle one problem at a time. So Hillary, what do we have so far for our wordsmithing? Were you able to add anything in about academics? Okay, or could you read it again for me? Okay.
In all grades. I should have known better than that. Thank you. In all grades, K to 12, the Elko County School District is 6 percentage points above the state average in chronic absenteeism for students missing 14 or more days of attendance.
I think that's good, just because I was looking at like the who, what, when, where, why, how many. It doesn't, like, none of those questions ask kind of that next level, right, of what is the impact. That's not, it's just what is the problem. The impact is not in a problem statement. So I think just leaving it at that is.
This may be a silly question. Who is this statement for? Is this for the public? Is this for us? Is this for staff? Is this for the board of director or the board of trustees? What is this statement? Where does it go?
Okay, so I'm seeing this in two different ways. So the who, not a part of our problem statement, right? Because the problem statement, who is our chronic absentee, like our students. So we should make sure that's clear. And then for us, this is how we are going to work through to really determine solutions. So this is a process for us. And if we want it to go beyond that, if we end up, wanting to do some things with policy or procedure and want to include any of this work, we certainly could. But for us right now, it's just a part of our workshop to help us really focus on what we're working with. And does that answer?
It does. So we can simplify this then. ECSD is 6 percentage points above the state average for chronic absenteeism. Because we know it's 14 or more. We know it's K-12. I mean, if it's just us, then we can truncate it pretty well.
I like simple. Gotta beat that 6%, man. If we have that as our goal. Okay. All right. Then let's just move on. I really want to be conscientious of everybody's time. So it is 3:05. This is either a good time to pause, or do we want to continue on and start into part 2 of our root cause analysis? Okay.
I think it may be a good stopping point because I'm afraid once we start, let's keep going. And I'd rather pause and start fresh now that we've got.
Can I suggest that for part 2, since we were going to do this a little bit individually on the sticky notes? I would be willing, if everyone else is, to kind of look through this in our off time. I'm assigning homework.
Yeah, so the teacher is.
Also, so you guys just know, I don't believe in a lot of homework. Okay, we know there's not a lot of effect size from it, but just thinking of time and getting to that conversation level, could we maybe write out some of it and then bring that as homework to the next meeting?
If that's what you guys would like to do, I think that's fine to do that. I'm also okay with using this time as workshopping. I think both can be valuable because I don't see, so the way I imagine this is that we would brainstorm. So when we're brainstorming, we're going to be looking at our district attendance policies, confusing, recently changed, inconsistent, enforced across different campuses. Are there any failures to define which department is responsible for interventions? So I really don't, I feel like that if I give you that as homework, you guys are all superstar students and you will spend way too much time on just that. And I really don't want you to. I want this to just be kind of our initial, like, this is our brainstorming session. This is just to get our juices flowing and not for you to do a research project. And I know you will. And you'll cite your sources, MLA, appropriately. Okay, fine. Case in point. So I am okay if you want to do some homework, but I do see the value in just having us kind of work through it. And as a team, we'll do some individual brainstorming and then come together and sort. Is everybody okay with that?
And then just a reminder, because this is subject to open meeting, you shouldn't be discussing these items amongst each other except for here in this meeting. So if you do choose to do that outside of this meeting, come prepared to have that discussion here as well so that it's on the record for the public.
One of these days I'll feel comfortable and just not following my script with Robbie's rules, but I'm not there yet. So we have reached item 3.01, our second period of input from the public. As before, comments are limited to 3 minutes and personnel issues should not be raised. Seeing no comments, we will move on to item 4.01 is adjournment of our meeting. And this is also a non-action item. Thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned, and I appreciate all of our good discussion today.